Have you ever watched my videos and wonder what my two favorite things to shoot at the range are? We're about to break that down in the upcoming video. Stay tuned. So we're going to start with the sidearm here. This is a Gen 3 Glock 19 Roland Special. Now I'm going to start up front and work my way throughout the entire gun. So what we have up front here, this is a KKM compensator. It's partnered with a KKM match grade barrel. We have an OEM slide by Glock, cut by ATEI, including the optic cut, which is for an RMR. The reason why is because they're pretty much the pioneers of that. They were the first ones to work on the Roland Special in regards to an optic cut on a stock slide. Now, this is what I've heard from someone who was pretty high up in DSS, so I'm pretty positive that this information is good to go. Moving back to the optic, we have a Trijicon RMR 06 Type 2 with a 3.25 MOA dot. We have suppressor height sights by Ameriglow. These are blacked out irons. So next, we're going to talk about the Gen 3 19 frame that I have here. Now, the reason why I went with that was because it was the first thing that was available to me when I was looking for something. I spent $100, bought the frame, it was completely gutted, and I've had it for quite a while until I had ended up putting the build together. On here for grip tape, this is Talon grip tape. It costs like $17. These frames, the older ones, Gen 2, Gen 3, they tend to get a little slick when you're shooting. So until I can get some framework done by Broken Top Solutions, if you haven't heard of them, check them out. This adds just the perfect amount of grit that I need for my grip so that the gun doesn't walk out of my hand. Now moving to the other side here, we have a CAGWorks slide release. So the reason why I have that on here is because my grip is very high on the pistol, and I was actually encountering problems where when I was running strings of fire, if I needed to do an 1R1 drill or say an El Presidente or something that required a reload, I wasn't encountering slide lock at the end. The slide was just staying where it was because of the pressure that the meat of my hand was applying to the slide release. So this basically fixes that, and I'm still putting it through the paces to find out exactly how good it is and if it's going to be the best option for me. Moving down to the trigger, we have a CMC drop-in Glock trigger. Now, I've been shooting this trigger for quite a while. This is actually my second one. The story behind this was I took a class that had a high round count, and the two pins that actually hold the safety into the shoe here, they walked out on me. I contacted CMC, explained to them what happened. They asked for the original one to be sent back, and within a week, I had a new trigger. Some of the best customer service I've ever encountered, and I would definitely recommend this trigger. I tend to like it. A lot of people don't like this shelf, but I actually like the way that it holds my finger in place. So no complaints from me. You guys do great work. Keep it up. Moving down again here, we have an OEM mag release, and it's just extended. The reason why I went with that is because unless you get a little scallop cut, sometimes it can be slightly difficult to work that mag release if you have shorter thumbs, and I have kind of intermediate thumbs. So having the extended one on there benefits me greatly. On the bottom here, we have a Reptilia black hole magwell. Now, I did need to put a little bit of work into this. I got 3 different magazines here, and what I'm going to show you is, here we have a 10-round magazine, and where the magazine actually meets up in regards to the mag release is a little bit shorter than on some of the other mags. So you have to sand down the inside of the magwell for them to seat properly. So they do seat now, but I had to put in a little bit of work. It was worth the effort. If I jump over to 15 rounder, goes in no problem. And obviously 17 rounds fits just fine. Final piece, Surefire X300 UA. Reason why I went with the A is because quick detach. Nice, easy, comes off quickly. If I wanted to just swap it out with a different light ever, or if I wanted to run this in a different holster, I have just the ease of being able to take it on and off quite quickly. It's very secure on there. Without any question, I know it's on there. It's going to work. Probably one of my favorite lights. If you have any questions in regards to the build, components that were involved, or components that you can get that are very similar to it, just leave them down in the comments below. Let's have a good conversation about it and get you the information that you need. Let's move on to the rifle. All right, so now we're going to move into the rifle. This is a build that's been a long time coming. I haven't had a rifle since about 2013. They kind of tend to be a little bit expensive. So let's get into it, and we're going to start just like we did with the pistol, from the front, go all the way back. So here it is. It's kind of a mishmash of parts, but this is a factory Daniel Defense M4A1 upper receiver partnered with a Aero M4A1 lower. Now, starting up top here, we have a Nox from Sons of Liberty Gunworks. Now, this works in partnership with dead air suppressors, in particular the Nomad and Sandman models. Other thing to be noted is it compensates for right-handed shooters if you have it timed properly. So you have gas ports up here on the top and then on the right-hand side. The way that that works is while you're shooting, you have gases coming out top to help bring the rifle down, and then gases coming out to the right to help bring the rifle into your support hand, which if you're clamping down on the rifle properly, it should float that gun exactly where you need it to be. Moving on to the barrel, we have from Daniel Defense. They make their own barrels, which I think is pretty cool. Everything's done in-house. It's a 14.5-inch cold hammer forged chromoly vanadium steel with a 1-in-7 twist. Our rail here, this is a wrist 2. Now, when it comes to looks, there's nothing sexier than a wrist 2. Geisley kind of hit the mark with their Mark 16, but this FDE color, which I would argue about it being FDE, but it just hits, something about it just hits the eye. It's very appealing, and it was something that I always wanted. So let's talk about that a bit. So it's made from 6061 T6 aluminum. It has a free float design, and it's a Type 3 hard coat anodized, and the length on it is 12.25 inches, and the weight is 17.7 ounces. It's held in place by a couple Allen screws on each side, and it does have a very particular way that it mounts. So if you're planning on buying this rail individually, just take note that you do need the proper tools to be able to install it correctly. So for an optic, I'm running what I consider the tank of all optics, really, for red dots, the Comp M4 by Aimpoint. Now, it's a little old, but it stands the test of time. This thing's taken quite a bit of abuse, and it hasn't let me down yet. So if you can find one of these used like I did, this is what I would recommend. It's got a nice big window for you to look through, and the battery life on them is fantastic. So cheers to Aimpoint for making quality products over the years. You guys continue to always knock it out of the park. Moving back now into the rest of the rifle, we're going to go with the upper receiver here. So our upper receiver, again, Daniel Defense. Inside we have a BCM full auto bolt carrier group. We have a BCM gunfighter charging handle. Now, one thing to be noted about this charging handle is that if you go to grab it from the side here, like you see a lot of people do, one-handed manipulations or one-finger manipulations, you really need to grab with your thumb and press outwards to be able to pull that bolt carrier group back. So that's just something to be noted in with this particular charging handle. and that's the only issue that I have with it thus far, is I can't just grab it with one finger and rack it back. You have to use the thumb, pinch with your index finger method to really get it to operate properly. Buffer tube is made by Colt. Stock is a B5 SOP mod stock. Moving into the lower receiver, we have an Arrow M4A1. Now, this is made out of 7075 T6 aluminum, and it has an integrated trigger guard and integrated magwell, which does kind of aid in reloading a bit compared to your standard magwell that you would find on a mil-spec lower receiver. The other thing that this happens to have is a threaded bolt catch roll pin, so it just makes it a bit easier than having to deal with the standard ones that you would see in like a mil-spec lower receiver parts kit. We have a Geisley Maritime bolt catch right here, and we have a Radian Talon selector, which I actually really like quite a bit. You got that nice short throw. It's got that positive feel as you move it. Can't ask for more. Moving down to the grip, I have a B5 Systems Type 23. Now, the reason why I chose this grip is because the angle is a little bit up and down compared to your standard mil-spec AR pistol grips that have a steeper angle to them. So I find that when shouldering it, my hand is more in an anatomically correct position. It just feels more comfortable to me than having my wrist all jacked up from a weird angle. So that's going to be it for this rifle, guys. If you have any questions in regards to the very specific components that I listed in this video today, or you have a question about a build that you have in mind, drop it down in the comments below and let's get a good conversation going. Now remember, nothing can replace good training, so get out there, put in the work, and as always, stay safe.